Thanks for the introduction. And I will find my presentation and start it. Wow, it all worked. And hopefully we'll be able to play audio as well. So my name is Mor. I'm at the School of Communication and Information. I call myself a reformed computer scientist. I come from a CS PhD program and now in an information science department. So just to make you think a little bit outside the box, I'll show you some applications, some ideas, and a little bit of where I think the social layer is going. And in particular, I'm going to talk about social awareness streams. This is kind of a term we invented just to point out the fact that we see on the web now a new kind of communication system, a new way for people to exchange information. And this communication system is different than everything we've seen in the past. It's different than the email, than the telephone, than IM, different than mail, but still it's used by hundreds of millions of people every day. So what is this thing? One example is Twitter right here, which is an example of a social awareness stream, and most of you know Twitter. Facebook is also, the news feed is a very similar application. And what we have here is, this is when I log in to Twitter, I see this stream, if you will, of updates from my friends. And each of them is posting an update and maybe sometimes forwarding an update from somebody else in some cases. And I can see, for whoever I'm following, I can see their updates in a long stream. If somebody's following me, they'll see my updates in their own stream. So what's going on here? What makes this new? First of all, this is a communication system that's built on passive consumption. Messages are not addressed to anyone in particular, like in email, for most cases, like in a telephone, right, that I can pick up the phone and call somebody. But instead they're posted and may or may not be read by anyone in particular, the people who might be following me. The second thing is that we have public or semi-public settings in which the messages are posted. They're not considered to be very private, and even if they're posted just to my friends, that list of friends is often 2, 3, 4, 500 or 1,000 people, depends on who you are. The third thing is that the content is very short. The brevity of content can be a link, it can be a 140 characters that Twitter famously allows. It can be maybe a short video, but it's always very short content. And the most important thing is that it's a highly connected social space. So in particular, unlike blogs, there were a lot of links between blogs, but nothing like we see today with Facebook. Like I said, the 500 friends on Twitter. People follow a lot of other people, a lot of other connections. So it really has some root in blogs, because I see kind of the progression in social media from blogs that started. You had to write a blog, you spend 10 minutes, 1 hour crafting your entry and posted about 1,000 words or so and shared your thoughts and lives with friends. Then Flickr came along and said, forget all that, we can just throw a picture up there and so show my friends what I'm up to. And that maybe took a few minutes for me to describe the picture with a few words to give my friends contact. And we did that with, when I was at Yahoo, we did that with Zontag on the mobile device. Then Twitter came along and said, pictures, we don't even need a picture. Let's just use the 20 words. I think there are about 15 words that fit in 140 characters. And in that way share whatever my thoughts or my attention or whatever I'm seeing, whatever I'm feeling with my friends. And now you can do it with even less. How many people here know of Foursquare? Got a lot of attention recently, where I have a mobile device that knows where I am, and with one click, literally, I open the app and I can check in to the business or the restaurant or the club that I'm in right now, and just by this one click, I can send a message to all my friends about my whereabouts, something that I do, something that they might care about as well. So, as you've seen, we're moving from rich media, rich in cues and social cues, and maybe not in like rich video or rich. So it's rich content, but not rich media. And we move to very thin, very fast, easy and cheap, and sometimes machine-aided content that people are sharing. Now, why do they do that? I can talk about that for hours, and there are a lot of communication and sociology studies that do that. We published a little bit about the different motivations and the different things that people do online. I'm not going to get into that now, but maybe the question of what we can do about it, right? So I'm going to just give a couple of proposals of what we can do in this room here, and then talk about a few things that we have already done in my research group here and before that the Yahoo. So first of all, we can try to climb back up the media scale. So instead of sharing this one bit of information, or a few bits that's a restaurant name that I'm currently eating at, what happens if we try to make the sharing of video or rich video content or other rich content that we capture around us more useful for people, more useful for application? I'm not sure what application that will entail, but I think we have the power to share a lot of rich content from what's going on around us, but we end up just sharing the place that we're at just because it's easy. The second thing is maybe start to create rich local networks with the co-located people, as you've seen what we have in Foursquare. That's new from the other people. When I check in somewhere, it not only tells my friend where I have just checked in, it also tells me who are the other people that are here. Now they get this information if they care to look at who else is there as well. But we can also create some interaction with the people that are around me that based on much richer content. So think about conference environment or concert environment or any other live event where we can share a lot richer information than just this person is present. This is just two areas that I think we can build on what people are doing in social awareness stream to add to the experience. But a little bit of what we did, I'm going to talk about two things. One is in the event scenario, what happens if you do some better, at least, use of the content that is already shared from live events. And the other, I'm going to talk about how to extract value from the information that people are already sharing, the very lo-fi information that they're sharing. So this will be the first demo about sharing rich content. Don't worry, the demo will be larger than this. And it's about the experience of watching videos from a live concert on YouTube after the fact, right? So right after the fact, maybe we can do it live as well, but right now there was a U2 concert in Giant Stadium. 100 people uploaded their videos. There's a lot of content out there. You go the next day, you search for that content, and YouTube just gives you, it's the Google thing, the list of results. So you watched the first one, it's Sunday Bloody Sunday, and you watch the second one, it's a beautiful day. The third one is the same part that you've seen in the first one, and you just go until you had enough, but you may have not been satisfied. So instead, we take the captured videos that we automatically identify, and there's a paper about how we get the relevant content for each event. But here I'm going to show you what we can do with it. We actually use the audio fingerprints of the content to... Oops, that's the wrong one. Here we go. And my screen, let me see if I can make it smaller. No. This is not the right size. Move over here. So, move. Excuse me.
So while you get that to work, basically you bypass the video recognition problem, right?
Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah.
That's really all I want to know.
So basically we extract from the audio signal. The audio fingerprinting is kind of Shazam is another thing that does that. They extract the peaks from the audio frequency from the different frequencies, and based on those, like for example, you can think of a drum beat, right, and things that are around it, and create a series of hash values, and you can compare two different clips to find the overlaps, right? So to find that the certain set of hash values appeared in one clip and also in the other. And if you pass the threshold, that's the fingerprinting part. And then you can compare two videos and pass the threshold, you can say that these are synchronized at that time. Let me actually, let me try to reload that, because I can't seem to scroll on the page. And if not, we'll go to the prepared video. Let's do that. Let me try to start it on my screen and move it to yours. This is a bit more clunky, but you can see that these are all captured or happening at the same time. These are 4 users that obviously don't know of each other, didn't know of each other, still don't know about each other, but and sit in different places in the audience, and we can switch. One video is out of view, but we can switch the other ones to see that somebody had some really good tickets for the show, and somebody else probably paid like $25 to sit in the worst place in the. So you can actually see the light when they go, and when Bono goes, "It's a beautiful day," and everything lights up at the same time. All right, we'll stop in a second. So there's a better demo of that, and we're working right now to make this experience a little bit better, for it to look better, and to integrate other kinds of content with it. And we have a paper about the synchronization, but also about the metadata that you can get just by looking at which videos overlap. So it can actually teach you a lot about what happened in the concert. So still in the event scenario, and I'm not going to show you a demo of this one, but this is live on the web. This is now looking both at the video, single source video, and all the Twitter messages that were posted during Obama's State of the Union presentation in January. And as you can imagine, there was a lot of response on Twitter. We collected 100,000 messages that talked about it. But to make sense of how the public responded, this actually was written as a tool for journalists to create story angles about the public response to the speech. We provided them with a timeline and a set of tools for them to see what the public was speaking about. So, for example, we show here words that were very prominent and that, according to that timeline, during the speech. So here the word desk became prominent because Obama was asking for the jobs bill to be put on his desk for him to sign. And people on Twitter really liked that. You can see that because they took it and they tweeted it. A lot of them tweeted it for a long time actually after it was mentioned. So this is kind of an analytical interface, and there's an upcoming paper about that. That's not yet on my website, but you can ask me for it.
Are those units on the side basically 1,000 tweets?
Yeah, this is by minute, I think, of the talk, and these are by 1,000. Yeah. So
So the bars are basically 1,000 tweets per minute.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea how many unique users there are? In other words, are there 10 people doing all of this?
Yes. No. There is a participation curve. But it flattens out pretty quickly. Actually, it says there are 100,000 tweets from 98,000 people. So 100,000 messages from 98,000 people. So it's pretty widely. But a lot of the content, we have filters in there, for example, that will show us relevance. So how relevant the message was to the content of that speech in the same moment. Because a lot of people just say, you might see here, watching State of the Union, which is not that interesting. But So, what else can these social awareness streams tell us about the world? I think we've just started to kind of scratch the surface of what this might do, but here's one thing that we found from a very initial investigation. This is the volume of Twitter messages, a normalized volume of Twitter messages in New York City versus Washington, D.C. In one day. So average over all days that we have in our data, this is 1 day of action in New York City versus Washington, D.C. And actually, what you can see here is we're going from 8 p.m. to 8 p.m., right? So this is 5 a.m. in the morning. Everybody's already gone to sleep, but not waking up yet. Okay. And the interesting thing that you can see is that, for example, Washington, D.C. peaks at lunchtime. Right? This is the activity in Washington, D.C., lunchtime. New York, nowhere close to the evening. Yeah, question.
Are these absolute units or relative?
No, these are relative. So this is normalized to
So
the
it
peak.
doesn't mean that in Washington, D.C. they have more tweeters than New York.
No, actually New York has about 6 times more on average. Yeah.
So this proves counter that New York never sleeps, right?
Yeah. It puts that New York sleeps later than DC, but yes, some people in New York do sleep. I don't think I've shifted the zero, so this means that there's a larger proportion of people in New York that never sleep. So we've done this in slightly other settings, which is Flickr. So most of you know Flickr, the photo sharing website. Let me just remind you in 1 minute what Flickr has. So here's a photo I uploaded to Flickr, and I can provide the title and description. I can also provide a set of tags, just short textual descriptions for that picture that appear next to it on the Flickr interface, and a location. So in this case, the location was captured automatically from a GPS device, but it can also be entered manually by the users. And in essence, what we get on Flickr is right now about 100 million marks of people telling us they're paying attention to something at some time in some location. Right? I think the number probably is higher than that. This is last year's number. 100 million geotagged photographs of people telling us they're paying attention to this now. Now, Twitter is starting to have that data, but other location data for individual messages. But other than that, Flickr is probably the richest source of attention that we get from users on a map.
Do you have a sense of the multiplicity for Flickr?
What do you mean?
100 million attention units is 10 people with a lot of time in their hand, or 10 million people that look at 10 things, or?
Yeah, again, probably parallel with a very long tail, so a very large set of users. Yeah, but I'm not sure what the number is. Of course, there are a lot of problems. I always show this photo of Arc de Triomphe that is unfortunately tagged Eiffel Tower with a spelling mistake and is 6 kilometers from the tower and 5 kilometers from Arc de Triomphe. But if you look at the patterns, and here we look at all these pink dots represent photos that have one tag in common. So patterns are still reliable in this data set. Who knows which tag all these have in common? So there's one tag that's common to all these photos. Alps, very good. Yeah, these are obviously not all the photos with the tag Alps, but you can see that can pretty much tell us what the Alps are, with an exception of
for that guy in Spain. I mean,
the guy in the Pyrenees. It wasn't you, Ivan, right?
No, it wasn't me. No.
All right. You know your Alps. But there's no right and wrong in social media, so they might have seen something that reminded them of the Alps there and used that tag. Who knows what this is? A little more abstract. Fjord. Very good. And this? Route 66. And this?
That's a trick question. Wall Street?
It's not proper in public to say
No, this actually it's pretty far. It's the Lower East Side, and in Manhattan, of course. So these are all fun, but we looked at the pink dots that Flickr exports on their maps, and we thought that we can generate actually a better understanding of what's going on in every place from the Flickr data. So this is Flickr's presentation, and we said there must be something there, because if you just want to show all the photos that we're taking, this is San Francisco, there are more than 1 million photos taken in this map area alone, geotagged photos. So San Francisco would just be covered with pink, which is true only in real life. And so the intuition behind what we did, we want to create a visualization that actually tells you what's in there, improves when you add more data, doesn't degrade, that the activity in a certain location indicates that that location is important, and if we have tags that are unique somewhere, that also tells us that this location is important, and that tag can be used to represent the location. So very simple algorithm that's based on TF-IDF. I'm not going to get to it now because you're going to eat me instead of dinner. But we have documents that are clusters, and we look at terms that are unique between different geographical clusters and pick those locations that have more unique terms and more content. And you end up with this map about 40 million photos later with this map of San Francisco. And this is essentially the participatory knowledge. And those of you who have been to San Francisco or will go soon actually can find it both kind of reflective of what's there and useful to explore. Right? It's no longer pink dots. You can actually tell what people are taking photos of. Yeah.
How do you position the text?
We position text on kind of in the center of the cluster. It's not ideal, but we can do some refinements later. The size of the text is kind of reflected to the score the term got, which is based on the popularity, but not just popularity. And you can see that some in this screenshot, there's some popular terms that count. This is the Conservatory of Flowers actually, but people don't have time to type that entire tag in, so flower gets to be more popular. Same thing here. This is what used to be SBC Park, and then renamed Pac Bell Park, maybe the other way around, and then became AT&T Park, and people just say baseball and forget all this. Let's show a quick demo actually, if we can do that. I seem to not. Oh, here. I should be able to scroll on this one. So this is San Francisco, and I can even highlight one of the tags here in Golden Gate Bridge, and this will create this is a live query to Flickr. So slowly we'll start getting images that were taken from that location with that tag. And I can also see what else is there around the Golden Gate Bridge, which is not that interesting in that case, but this is the famous Lombard Street in San Francisco. Will load slowly. That's the round street that you can go downhill. And if I zoom in, I actually see the way the algorithm is written. Zooming in will give you more and more details. So you get finer and finer details. At some point you stop seeing names of neighborhoods, for example, but you start seeing more local features. And this should load in a second. Similarly, if I zoom out to the level of California, I will stop seeing the local features and start seeing things that work in state level. Yoda, anyone wants to guess? Why Yoda? Yeah. So there's George Lucas Industrial Light Magic, ILM, is right there. And there is a life-size statue of our master. It will show up in a second. There it is. Oh, somebody has some murals on. So this is not many of them are loading, but it's really life-size, right? Yoda is not very big. Yeah.
Do you only handle English tags?
We don't exclude any languages, but Flickr, in the time that we did this, Flickr was mostly English. Flickr now supports multiple languages, so we can do it. In fact, we did it. I can go to this is California level. I can also go this is, by the way, if you search for tag maps, this is live on the web, so you can play with it. But let's go somewhere where they don't speak English, like Boston. I'm just joking. Berlin. And you'll see sometimes actually Tokyo is a better example. And I'll let it load while I go back to the presentation. I'm almost done, don't worry. So, and the interesting thing, this is an application that we were able to swing because Twitter set up the set of motivation in the application for users to want to share this data with us, with the world, to want to upload photos, to want to geotag them because they get more attention from friends, from public. They can share their photos and so far. So, and this was done based on intrinsic motivations mostly. So I guess the final point is that we're operating in the technology space that's between information, communication, and media. And in those systems, usually they're driven by one or more of these needs that people have to communicate, to share information, and so forth. And this kind of information that is shared is already telling us a great deal about the world. And what we would like to do is to kind of push the envelope next in this social stack and come up with applications, new applications that really use the technologies in better and better way to improve on what's available to people, and perhaps to see how that affects the lower level application and network layers that we have to work with. So I think it's up for you and me to find out. This is my contact information, and I'll be happy to take half a question, I guess, before they kill me.
Yeah, so fascinating. I want to comment on, as we move to the reality, at least of wireless, of the media being scarce. Not the media in terms of photos, but the actual traffic, bit rate, and just downloading becoming capped or usage priced. Do you have a sense of what would be the reaction of the users? What would they favor? What would they abandon?
Yeah, I think we haven't seen enough. For various reasons, we haven't seen enough sharing by the long tail, right, of users have not been sharing a lot of data for the mobile device. Consumption perhaps, but creation, like nobody is now broadcasting live their videos from a mobile device because they don't have data plans, they don't have batteries, they don't have a good enough network connection, whatever it might be. So it's hard to say that these caps would change the current behavior. I think they will probably limit future applications, and as someone who develops an application, I'm probably not going to consider the network caps. I'm going to let the carriers figure out their cost models based on what people want to do with the network. So, but I do, it's always, when you do come up with new applications that make sense to the users, maybe that will be beneficial for everybody, because the carriers will then see that they can charge for them, right? So they charge extra money. AT&T has a new model out for charging for data plans, so I think we'll make it somewhat useful. So I don't know if the short answer.
Yeah, completely new to the area. So the audio tagging, how new is that?
The audio tagging, you mean the fingerprint, the finding the synchronization? So Shazam has been doing that commercially for at least 5 or 6 years now. So what they do, usually what we do that is different, what Shazam does is they let you go to a bar and you like a song and you put your phone up and it listens to that song, sends a signal to their clean source data set, and compare that to the clean source and tells you what song is being played.
Yeah, I'm asking that I know about. I'm asking a different question. The synchronization.
Yeah. So what we do.
That's the new part.
That's the new part. That's from 2009. We take dirty sources that listen to, are associated with the videos, right?
The reason I'm asking is that a lot of people worry about this social media, and GPS doesn't work indoors. And I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of ways that we can find links between the media objects that are not just based on
Yeah,
the
people don't
location.
care where they are, they just want to know who they're around.
Yeah.
And that's
Right.
interesting.
Charlie,
Cool.
So the Boston room, no.
So I guess, thank you. We just made it at 6 o'clock. I'd like to thank the speakers. For those of you who I realized we had a very long